I never imagined my life would change when the millionaire overheard my fated call in Chinese. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I stood in a crowded cafe, surrounded by the smell of roasted coffee beans and the low hum of chatter. I was just trying to catch my breath. My mother's voice rang in my ears, her words sharp and cutting as she questioned my choices. Was I throwing my life away? In that moment, my hands trembled as I clutched my phone. I could almost feel everyone's eyes on me, their hushed whispers creeping into the corners of my mind. I had only meant to talk to her, to vent about the uncertainty that haunted my every step. Little did I know, the walls of that little cafe held secrets that would unravel my world. The $1,000,000 smiled as I glanced up, and there he was, a man in an impeccably tailored suit, casually sipping espresso. The sunlight caught the edge of his cufflinks, reflecting hundreds of little shards of light that danced across the room. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me. I swallowed hard. Did he hear my conversation? My heart pounded, a wild drum in my chest. Why was I suddenly so aware of the space between us? My mind flashed back to the small apartment I shared with my sister. The peeling paint, the half-filled pantry, the mounting bills. I was desperate to change that. I worked each day tirelessly, balancing 2 jobs, trying to save every penny. But the weight pressed harder on my chest. I couldn't let it break me. I had my sister to think about, her dreams intertwined with mine. And yet, standing in that cafe, I had a feeling that my life was about to spiral in a different direction. Did I dare to hope? Suddenly, the buzz of the crowd faded into a muffled silence. I could see the millionaire's sharp eyes fixated on me as he stood. My breath hitched. Why was he coming over? Sweat trickled down my back like melted ice. Would he dredge up the secrets my mother had burdened me with? I felt small, exposed like a tightrope walker on the brink of a fall. The cafe felt like a stage, with each patron suddenly an audience to my internal struggle. Just as he reached my table, my phone buzzed violently against the wood. Startled, I glanced down. It was a message from an unknown number. I know what you said. My heart crashed into my stomach. How could someone possibly know? The sensation twisted in my gut, an intense mix of fear and intrigue. The millionaire smirked, confusion dancing in his gaze as I stared at my phone, frozen. His presence loomed large, the air crackling with uncertainty. The world around me faded. Was this a chance encounter, or was it something more? I looked up at him, my mouth dry, desperate for answers. But the questions buried deep inside me felt like a weight I couldn't shed. Why had I let my emotions spill out so carelessly? What did this all mean? Can I help you? He asked, his voice smooth, yet held an edge that sent chills down my spine. My heart raced, trying to process the layers of this bizarre moment. How could a single overheard call turn my life into a tangled web of fate? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment stretched into eternity as I sat there, words tangled in my throat, an inner turmoil battling for dominance. The millionaire's question hung in the air like a challenge, daring me to speak. My fingers trembled as I placed my phone face down on the table, desperately trying to forge a comfortable facade. I stammered, a rush of heat flooding my cheeks. The tension between us coiled tighter, each second filled with unspoken expectations. My mind raced to find clarity amidst the storm. I was thrown into a whirlwind, and he was the eye of that storm, captivating yet intimidating. His expression softened, as if he could sense my struggle. Please, I didn't mean to intrude. But your conversation caught my attention. It sounded serious. His compassionate tone was unexpected, flickering a glimmer of hope within me. Would he really extend kindness, or was this a mere facade? It's just, personal, I replied after a moment, my voice barely above a whisper. Personal matters can weigh heavily, he said, leaning slightly closer. Sometimes sharing it can lighten the load, even if just a little. A knot formed in my throat. I wanted to unburden myself but feared the ramifications. What would he think of me? Was he genuinely offering kindness, or was this merely a ploy? I glanced down at my hands, still trembling from uncertainty. Memories of my mother's stark disappointment filled my thoughts, a dusty album I didn't want to revisit. Just trying to figure things out, I said at last, the vulnerability inching into my voice. My mom, she doesn't believe I'm doing the right things. She worries I'm wasting my potential. A shadow crossed his face briefly, and he nodded, seemingly understanding. Family can be the most demanding of critics. They care, but sometimes their expectations can feel like shackles. A rush of warmth washed over me. I wasn't alone in this struggle, proof that someone else wrestled with the weight of familial obligations. It was refreshing and heartbreaking all at once. Just when I thought maybe this conversation could steer my mind away from the angst, my phone buzzed again, jolting me back into chaos. I flipped it over, heart racing. Another message, this time clearer: you can't hide your truth from me. The words were like a punch to the gut, dark and threatening. I glanced up at the millionaire, my instincts screaming to shield my thoughts. My mind raced. Who was this? What did they want? Is everything okay? He asked, concern knitting his brow. Yes, I lied, feigning composure. Just an annoying message. I tried to redirect our conversation, the pressure in my chest barely easing. My sister, she's been putting her dreams on hold because of our situation. I'm trying to find a way out for both of us. His eyes softened, glimmers of understanding threading through them. What does she dream of? She wants to study art, attend the best school, I said, feeling the pull of that ambition. But we can hardly afford basic necessities, let alone tuition fees. Art has a power to uplift, to change lives, he replied, voice smooth. What if I could help? A rush of disbelief coursed through me. Was he serious? It felt too good to be true. Could I really let myself believe that someone like him would take notice of someone like me? A flurry of emotions crashed within me, but they were interrupted yet again by another buzz. My heart sank deeper as I read the message: you have to choose. I know what you're hiding. Having a wealthy benefactor can change everything for your sister, but only if you let it, he said, pulling my attention back. I can't just accept charity, I replied, wrestling with the remnants of pride I clung to. That doesn't solve anything. Help isn't a sign of weakness. It can be a bridge, a way to build a better foundation, he insisted. Before I had a chance to respond, the cafe door swung open violently, drawing our gazes. A figure entered, familiar yet wholly unexpected. Tension coiled in my stomach, heart thrumming as recognition settled in. It was Anna, my sister, her wide eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. Stop! She called out, rushing forward. I need to talk to you, now. In that instant, the world around me collapsed into the deafening chaos of uncertainty yet again. I exchanged a quick glance with the millionaire, whose expression had shifted to one of intrigue. What's happening? I managed to ask, worry flooding my senses. Anna's voice trembled, words tumbling out in a rush. It's about Mom, she's in trouble. We have to go now. With that, my heart shattered, cold claws of fear gripping my insides. What could possibly come next? The cafe atmosphere shifted dramatically, the warm glow of light now feeling sterile, dimmed by the urgent pallor that gripped me. Anna's presence was a storm, swirling with anxiety. I stood, my mind racing as her words settled like lead in my stomach. What trouble? What do you mean? I asked, my voice a hushed plea. Anna cast an apprehensive glance at the millionaire, who remained quietly observant, leaning back slightly as if to acknowledge our unfolding family drama. Mom's been saying strange things, and she needs help. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels serious. I'm scared. Scared of what? I pressed, the weight of her vulnerability heightening my own sense of dread. It was clear she was struggling to keep the panic at bay. Her behavior has changed. She's been telling me things that don't make sense. I think her voice broke before she could finish. I think she might be slipping away from us. My breath hitched, a deep, instinctual fear rising from the pit of my stomach. 1,000 memories of Mom's warmth and laughter blended with the recent echoes of her disappointment, painting an unnerving picture of the woman I had always depended on. Let's go, I said decisively, urgency overriding my turmoil. I turned toward the millionaire, eager to keep the chaos contained. Thank you for your kindness. Two need to deal with this. He nodded, but there was a flicker of something deeper behind his eyes, concern, perhaps even a desire to help more substantially than I could comprehend. I could sense him holding back, unwilling to intrude further but reluctant to let go. Sometimes, he started, leaning forward again, there are moments in life where we're called to use our voice, to seek what we need. Don't forget, your words hold power. I nodded, processing the layers of his meaning but feeling overwhelmed as another text pinged, this one from an unknown number, reading, your mother's state isn't what you think. I've seen her and you need to act fast. Who is it? I muttered, my skin crawling, but Anna had already tugged my arm, urgency clouding her expression. Please, we have to go, she repeated, almost pleading. We stepped out into the brisk air, the city's chaos a stark contrast to the cocoon of the cafe. Anna hurried ahead, not waiting for me to absorb the breadth of what was happening. I followed, panic igniting my mind. As we reached the car, my phone buzzed again. I fumbled for it, glancing quickly at the text, you can't trust anyone. Even not the millionaires. Who are you texting? Anna asked, glancing back from the driver's seat, concern knitting her brows. Just something, I replied, stuffing my phone into my pocket, desperation gnawing at me. We sped through the familiar streets toward home, the tension thick inside the car. What do you think is going on with Mom? I asked, trying to gauge Anna's sense of fear against my own. That I don't know. She burst out, hitting the steering wheel. But she's been acting so strange. Ever since that last doctor's appointment, everything feels wrong. I don't think she's been taking her medication. She says she forgets or nothing. Anna, well, figure this out, I insisted, the desperation welling in my throat. We pulled up in front of our house, a 2-story structure that had held so many memories. It now stood ominous and foreboding, calling us to confront whatever awaited within. That we entered cautiously, apprehension lingering in the air. The living room was dim, the curtains drawn tight against the light, a suffocating gloom permeating the familiar space. Mom. I called, but my voice trembled, faltered. There was no response. Anna rushed ahead cautiously, the silence stretching between us tight as a wire. I glanced around, the pictures on the walls freezing in their joyful moments. I felt miles away from that girl, a time before shadows loomed over our home. The fear that had been lurking inside me now clawed for release. Mom! Are you here? My heart raced as I crossed the threshold into the kitchen. The air felt heavy, almost palpable. That's when I spotted her. She sat against the far wall, her hands trembling slightly, clutching something close to her chest. A worn, crumpled piece of paper. Dark stains marred its surface, and an unsettling energy settled around her. Mom. I stepped closer, the fear intensifying, mingling with a strange sense of hope that perhaps I could pull her back from the edge of this unknown abyss. What's going on? She looked up, and her eyes, once full of warmth, were now clouded, a distant expression that sent a chill through my veins. You shouldn't have come back, she murmured, almost to herself. They're watching. My heart sank as her gaze flickered to the window, a deep-seated dread pooling inside me. What was happening? Who was watching? Mom, please, you're scaring me, I said, but her face was devoid of recognition, fixed on something just beyond my reach, lost in shadows I desperately wanted to illuminate. But just as quickly as the fear consumed me, a new buzz from my phone echoed through the silence. With shaking hands, I pulled it out, glancing at the screen. The message was stark, unnerving, and closer than you think that I felt the floor beneath me shift, a growing sense that everything was spiraling beyond my control, each revelation sealing my fate further into chaos. In the darkness of those words, I felt the walls closing in. What was going to show up next, and would I ever be able to escape this haunting reality? The shadows lingered around us, thickening the air and twisting my sense of reality. Trembling in the presence of a mother who felt more like a stranger, I struggled to wrap my mind around her haunting words. I looked at Anna, her face a mirror of my own fear, eyes wide with horror as the edges of our once safe world began to unravel. "Mom, we need to talk," I urged, stepping closer, my heart hammering against my ribs. The vulnerability in her eyes flickered, momentarily touched with recognition, as though she had lost her way and might find the light again. "What do you mean, they're watching?" She blinked slowly, her grip tightening on the crumpled paper, a small trembling leaf caught in a storm. "You can't trust anyone, not even family. They know what we don't. You have to listen. There's danger in the ordinary." I glanced around the dim kitchen, the slice of light from the window falling on the paper like a spotlight, revealing its sinister stains, a chilling reminder that something was so horribly wrong. "Mom," I said gently, "we're here for you. I promise we'll figure it out together." But just as her expression began to soften, a loud knock echoed through the house, sharp and authoritative. My heart plummeted. Who could that be? My mind raced with frantic possibilities as the knock sounded again, insistent. Anna and I shared a glance, fear etched on both our faces. "I'll get it," she whispered, glancing toward the door reluctantly, her feet as heavy as lead. I stayed rooted to the spot, an involuntary guard for our mother. "Mom, please, just focus on me," I said softly, as Anna hesitated on the threshold. "Don't answer it," my mother suddenly cried, breaking through the haze like a lighthouse cutting through fog. "They'll know you're here." My heart sank further, churning with confusion. "Know what? Who will know?" But before she could answer, Anna had already swung open the door, her expression morphing into shock as a figure stood before us, cloaked in the evening shadows. Dressed sharply, the man offered a polite smile that felt too practiced to be sincere. "Good evening. I'm here on official business regarding your mother's recent activity," he said, his voice smooth but edged with an unspoken threat. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping between Anna and the stranger, my protective instincts flaring. "I'm with a private agency," he replied, glancing briefly over my shoulder to where I could sense my mother's distress mounted. "We've been observing her condition, and I assure you, I'm here to help. I scoffed, anger rising like bile in my throat. "By intruding in our lives, I believe you should listen," he said, unfazed. "Your mother is in danger. There are people who want her silence and they won't hesitate to act." "What do you mean?" Anna interjected, her voice uncertain but tinged with the weight of urgency. "This is bigger than you realize," the man continued. "She's involved in something that has implications beyond this house, beyond your understanding. I can help you understand, but you have to trust me." I felt a shiver run down my spine. Trust. The very word felt heavy with betrayal and fraught with uncertainty. Could we even trust each other anymore? Or ourselves? "Mom," I turned back, my eyes pleading, "what has been happening? Please tell me." She clutched the paper tighter to her chest, her eyes darting between the man and us. "You don't know what you're asking. I can't let you get pulled into this. You're both still so young." I thought her voice cracked, frayed and overburdened. Before I could speak again, the man took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You think this ends with just you and your mother? The threats can come from anywhere and we need to contain it. But to do that, we must go now. Go where?" I asked, indignation igniting within me. "What exactly do you want from us?" Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, slicing through the tension. I grasped it, glancing at the screen and feeling the color drain from my face. The text read, "Trust the man at your door. He speaks truth." I dropped my gaze from my phone, torn between the growing shadow of dread and the flicker of hope in the man's eyes. "I don't even know you," I spat, though under the weight of his intensity, the conviction in my voice faltered. "Then let's make it a real introduction," he suggested, his composure unwavering. "But time is not our ally. Your mother's life hangs in the balance. Either we act now, or we lose everything." Anna shifted beside me, her expression mirroring my own uncertainty. I felt the urge to reach out, to comfort my mother, to ground myself in what was real, but a deeper fear throbbed through me, gnawing at my instinct to protect her. "Mom," I finally said firmly, "we can't ignore this. If there are forces at play that threaten our family, we have to face them together." As the silence strained, I could sense an impending shift, a moment where everything could change. But as I turned back to my mother, the light in her eyes flickered one last time before fading into uncertainty. "You don't understand, I'm already losing my way," she whispered, her gaze pulling away into the shadows once more. I felt my heart shatter as the weight of her words crashed down upon us. The stakes were higher than I had ever imagined, and the strands of our fragmented lives tightened around us, forcing us to confront the dark unknown. The air in the room was thick with tension, a thick blanket of uncertainty wrapping around us as our mother's voice trembled on the edge of despair. Every word she uttered felt like a crack in the fragile glass of our lives, threatening to shatter all that we knew and all that we loved. "Mom, please." Anna stepped forward, her youthful defiance crumbling under the weight of fear. "You're still here with us. We can help you. We just need you to tell us what's going on." The man at the door remained silent, his presence a palpable tension in the air, as our mother's gaze sank deeper into the abyss of her own thoughts. "If only it were that simple," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "I thought I could keep you safe." "Safe from what?" I pressed, fear morphing into desperation. "You think keeping this secret will protect us? We can't fight shadows without understanding them. You've brought us into this world already." The truth hung there, suspended in the charged atmosphere. Our mother, the woman who had always been the stronghold of our family, was unraveling before our eyes. The man shifted uneasily, glancing back toward the street as if evaluating the shadows that clung to the darkness, wary of unseen threats. "What do you know about the whispers, the voices?" she asked suddenly, her eyes lifting to meet mine, burning with a raw intensity. "They've been calling to me, telling me to look deeper. I resisted for so long, but now they're angry. Angry that I didn't follow through." I swallowed hard, grappling with the chaotic storm brewing within me. "Mom, you're not alone. We're with you. Well, face whatever this is, whatever it takes." She drew a shaky breath before shaking her head, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes. "No, you don't understand. They're not just whispers. They're a warning, a curse. I've brought this upon us." Everything inside me turned cold at her words. Anger surged through my veins, intertwined with a desire to shield her from the truth of her own failings. "You didn't bring anything upon us. This isn't your fault. We can figure this out together. A family's love can't protect against all evils," she murmured, as though reciting a lesson long learned. "I thought I had escaped, but the past has a way of creeping back, unnoticed." Anna and I exchanged a glance filled with uncertainty. "We can at least give this man a chance, right?" Anna whispered, her eyes begging for some glimmer of assurance. The man nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I promise you, the truth isn't as harsh as you fear. But only if you allow me to lead you through it." "Let us?" I echoed, the alarm bells in my head ringing louder. "You haven't even told us your name." "Sebastian," he replied, with a calm confidence. "And I am one of the few who understands the threat that lingers near your family. They've been watching long before you realized." "Watching?" I felt a shiver race down my spine. "Who are they? What do they want?" "Uncovering the truth is essential," he said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. They want to bury it and they won't stop until they succeed. Mom, please, Anna urged. You're our mother. We can't just sit idly by. You have to fight this. Her gaze fell to the ground, lost in shadows of doubt, and just as I felt hope shatter, she whispered, I can't. Not without knowing they're away from us. There's a cost to going back for the truth. What cost? My voice trembled. We've already lost so much. How much more can we afford? The flickering light from the street lamp outside cast a soft glow on our faces, illuminating the quiet pain that resided within us. I could feel the walls closing in as the dread of unnamed threats loomed ever nearer. In a moment of unexpected clarity, I reached for Anna's hand, holding it tight. Together, we can withstand this. We've faced brokenness before. We will face this too. At that moment, just as I thought maybe we had found a small glimmer of resolve, my phone buzzed once again, pulling my attention away. I snatched it from my pocket, my heart racing, my pulse quickening like a countdown to disaster. The message this time from an unknown number read, they've already infiltrated your safe space. Look for the signs. Fear pierced through me like icy daggers as I glanced at my mother, my heart plummeting. Had I failed in my promise to protect her? The world felt as if it were polarizing, voices outside our door fading into static chaos as an insistent feeling clawed its way into my chest. What did that just say? Sebastian stared at me, his demeanor now intense, scanning the perimeter of the house, his focus razor-sharp. I don't know, I stammered, my voice cracking. It's just a warning. We need to get you both out of here. Now. His voice was urgent, commanding, but my mind whirled with uncertainty. Right now? I asked, desperation seeping in once more. I looked at my mother, who seemed distant not just in spirit, but in the very fabric of our lives, as if the strands connecting us frayed further apart. Yes, he replied, quietly, but with the unfaltering resolve of someone who understood the characteristics of fear. You don't have the time to lose. I glanced back at my phone, the shadows closing in, threats lurking just outside the lines of our frail sanctuary. But before I could ask how we could make it through, the power flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. The sudden silence of the night grew louder, filled with an ominous weight that pressed upon us. Move! Sebastian's voice cut through the void, and as I grabbed Anna's hand even tighter, I felt my heart teetering between hope and the growing dread of what lay ahead. The door creaked as he stepped into the hallway, leading us into the unknown just as another loud knock came crashing through the chaos, followed by something far more chilling, a resonant laugh, a sound unmistakably familiar. Mom, that laugh, I whispered, my pulse racing as I felt an icy dread grip my heart. She turned away, the shadows consuming her fear. We have to go. Now. But it was already too late. The truth I had been so desperately seeking intertwined with the darkest parts of my life, and the shadows had found their way home. As the door swung open, chaos surged forth, and with it, a new revelation of betrayal, crushing against us like the weight of 1,000 secrets waiting to be unleashed. The air was suffocating, thick with an unshakable dread that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. My grip on Anna tightened as chaos spilled into our lives with each thunderous knock against the door. The resonant laugh echoed with the familiarity of a haunting melody I never wished to hear again. Mom, please, tell me it's not who I think it is, I rasped, my voice barely above a whisper. The world outside felt too distant, shadows creeping in as the darkness expanded like a living entity, ready to swallow us whole. She turned to face me, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and sorrow. Sometimes, the past isn't a ghost we can outrun. It's a relentless tide, and it has returned to reclaim what it lost, but the words felt like knives against my heart, slicing deeper into the wound of our family's history. I had always believed in the strength of love, a foundation built on trust, ready to weather any storm. Yet here we were, on the precipice of a nightmare, teetering on the edge of our shared revelations. Sebastian, what do we do? I pleaded, my voice cracking under the weight of my emotions. Each second stretched longer, thick with anxiety as the laughter morphed into a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the walls that he stepped forward, his expression now a careful mask of determination. We have to confront it. Whatever or whoever is on the other side of that door is coming for the truth. That I was torn, my mind racing through a myriad of possibilities. But what if it's worse? What if they know what we're hiding? Sebastian shook his head, a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. Hiding only gives them power. You have to stand tall in the face of your past to reclaim your future. Anna's eyes widened with dawning comprehension. That laugh, it sounds like Richard, I finished her thought, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. Our estranged father, the man whose abandonment had driven our mother to secrecy, reappearing when we needed him least. His darkness had always loomed like an unshakable shadow, and now it threatened to engulf us once more. Are you ready? Sebastian asked, and his question felt deeper than we could fathom. The weight of our past bore down on us painfully, teeth clenching as uncertainty wrapped around my heart. My thoughts spiraled, memories clashing like thunderclouds. What if we don't have the strength? He stepped closer, fierce confidence emanating from him as if he could sense the despair eating away at my resolve. If you falter, let your love for each other become your shield. It's stronger than you realize. Together, you can face your demons. In that moment, the darkness felt significant, crushing yet filled with opportunity. We had the chance to rewrite our story. To battle against the constraints of a past that threatened to suffocate the life we had fought to build together, I whispered, glancing at Anna, whose eyes shone with both fear and resolve. She nodded as if infused with newfound bravery, and together we took one step forward. The knock came again, louder and more insistent, a jolt of adrenaline racing through me. Sebastian peeled back the door, the splintering crack revealing a dimly lit hallway beyond, a corridor of uncertainty leading to the source of our dread. The sight before me was not what I expected. Richard stood there, gaunt and wearied, as if the weight of his choices had hollowed him out. His hair was tousled, a stark contrast to the smooth facade he had always maintained. The man who had once seemed larger than life now appeared shriveled against the light, a ghost from our past. Open the door, let me in, he boomed, the gravel in his voice warping the familiar timbre of my childhood memories. There was no semblance of warmth, only an insatiable hunger that reverberated through every word. Why? I challenged, instinctively moving closer to Anna. What do you want from us? He chuckled, the same laughter that echoed in shadows now refusing to leave our minds. Truth, my dear. It's time you learned the life I left behind. The people I had to betray. Betrayal. The word reverberated through the hallway, manifesting as a living nightmare in my chest. Why now? Anna asked, her voice tremulous but unwavering. Why after all this time? His gaze sharpened, a predatory glint in his eyes. Because you need to understand. There are forces at work that demand reckoning. Forces you can't even begin to comprehend. What does that mean? I clung to Anna's hand, feeling swept up in the torrent of disrealization. What forces? But before he could answer, a low hum rippled through the air, resonating deeply like a distant storm gathering strength. You're not ready for this, he said, but the threat in his tone hinted at something impending, something inevitable. Ready or not, well, face whatever it is together, I declared, feeling the steadiness that anchored my heart. And just as I thought we were catching a glimpse of control, the world morphed again. A blinding light flooded the hallway, thick shadows peeling back and exposing dread of another kind. Sebastian! I cried as he retreated into the enigma beyond, his presence becoming a blur against the shining chaos. Stay where you are. Richard's voice was unyielding, but the light closed in, morphing the space into something unrecognizable. My heart raced, teetering between flight and fight. Anna, we have to. But before I could finish my thought, the shout of chaos resonated from all directions, and the shadows came rushing back into our lives, merging with blinding light, fabricating the kind of reality I never envisioned threatening to swallow us whole. In that moment, a new revelation erupted within me, staking a claim against the past that held us hostage. My family was not merely bound by blood, but by the immense love that dared to transcend the darkness. Whatever had come to reclaim our past couldn't stand against the unshakable force of what we carried within us. But would it be enough in the face of our father's terrible secrets? As the chaos thickened, I braced myself, torn between fear and hope. Could we endure the shadows long enough to seize the truth without losing each other in the process? The answer was locked away, tantalizingly out of reach, waiting for us to embrace the storm that lay ahead. The moment the chaos erupted, time seemed to stand still. A blinding light coursed through the corridor, a stark contrast to the shadows that had clung to us for so long. I could feel the walls shrinking around me, the very foundation of our home trembling beneath the weight of Richard's presence. My heart raced, tapped into a primal instinct urging me to flee, yet a deeper impulse anchored me in place. I could almost hear the whispers of my mother's long-lost courage echoing in my mind, reminding me of the strength that flowed through our veins. "Anna." I called again, searching for her through the haze of light, hoping that she was still with me, still our steadfast anchor in the tempest brewing outside. Just when the light amplified to almost blinding brilliance, it cascaded downward, bathing us in an ethereal glow. Through the chaos, I finally caught sight of her, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination that mirrored my own. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling yet somehow unwavering. "Together," I repeated, desperate to rally our broken spirits as the shadows clawed at our resolve. Just as we had agreed to stand side by side, a grim realization surfaced. Richard was still there, looming larger than life, his once familiar features twisted by the allure of something darkly formidable. "Do you understand what you're facing?" he growled, his tone dripping with a dreadful mix of authority and foreboding. "You cannot simply wish the past away. You must confront it, or it will consume you." A frisson of fear trickled down my spine. I remembered the stories my mother had whispered when nightmares invaded my dreams, tales of the deep-rooted secrets Richard had spun from his own deception. "What are you implying?" I croaked, anger swelling within me, battling the paralyzing fear. He smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "I'm implying that I'm not the only one who has been waiting for this moment. There are forces aligned in the shadows, those who've suffered because of your mother's decisions." Those words hung heavily in the air, twisting like a dagger into the remnants of trust one held for him. The mention of my mother sent a ripple of panic crashing into my mind. "What did she do?" I demanded, my voice rising as I felt Anna's fingers intertwining with mini an anchor against the rising tide. Richard's gaze flickered momentarily, a hint of something, regret, perhaps. "She was part of a world far darker than you can comprehend. One that has always sought to circle back to finish what was started long ago." "Enough," I barked, anger transforming into resolve. "Whatever you think you know, you're wrong to believe that we would ever betray our mother. We will fight for her." With each syllable, the weakness that threatened my stance slipped away as belief surged in my veins, bolstering my courage to confront the reality of his words. A chilling laugh erupted from him, reverberating through the light-infused air. "You think you can? You are blind to what lies ahead. A storm is brewing, one that you won't be able to weather without sacrificing something precious." "Stop." Anna's voice broke through the haze, a fragile plea thundering with urgency. "You don't get to threaten us. If you care about anything at all in the shadows you inhabit, then you'll leave and let us be." But even as her words hung in the air, I felt a flicker of doubt flicker within me. Was there truth in Richard's twisted realm of reality? Would we become trapped in a fight that twisted our very essence? His eyes glinted with a mixture of contempt and amusement. "Even now you cling to false notions of loyalty. Trust me when I say no love is deep enough to save you from what's coming." Before I could reply, another upheaval caught my attention. Among the swirling chaos a figure emerged, faint yet unmistakable. My pulse quickened as the silhouette became clearer, taking a shape that was all too familiar. Across the luminous threshold, I saw my mother, a ghost of the woman I remembered, the once vibrant spirit now dimmed, echoing generations of grief and sacrifice. "Mom!" I shouted, stepping forward, but the brightness encapsulated her like a protective barrier, and I couldn't reach her. "What's happening?" "I have kept you safe for as long as I could," her voice pierced through the gleaming barrier, tender yet filled with sorrow. "But there are things you must understand, things I hid from you to protect you from this darkness." "Then tell us," I called, desperation knotting in my throat. "You can't just stand there." "I can't tell you everything," she replied, anguish evident in her tone. Some truths are too dangerous, even for you to know. You must decide now whether to walk away or to stand your ground. At that moment, time fractured, and everything hung in suspense around us. I glanced at Anna, who was rooted beside me, a wealth of emotions swirling within her gaze: fear, love, and an unwavering courage I had come to depend on so fiercely. I felt the weight of Richard's presence behind me, an ever-tightening presence that stirred something primal within, but beyond my mother's telegraphed whispers, my senses alerted me to something darker lurking beyond the light. A sudden shift in the air prickled the hairs on my arms, the sensation of being watched, something malevolent in the depths of the impending storm gathering not far from us. Sebastian, the voice echoed, a chilling familiarity, striking at the core of my heart. In that moment, a strength surged within, ignited not by confrontation but by a protective instinct and urgency to shield those I held dear against the ties of the past. I couldn't let Richard win, couldn't indulge the darkness clamoring for our family's undoing. I choose to fight, I declared, feeling Anna's hand squeeze tighter, readying herself alongside me. Then know this, Richard's tone dripped with ire, the choices you make today could cost you dearly. One way or another, you will pay for the legacies that bind you. And as his words hung in the air, the brightness began to flicker, shadows boiling at the edges of our reality. My heart raced, primal instincts urging me to act as the silhouettes of the past danced through the light, the ghosts of loyalties, betrayals, and secrets yearning to reclaim their place in our lives. Whatever lay ahead, whatever truth we would learn about our family and ourselves, I knew one thing: we would face it together. But in that terrifying moment, just as courage ignited within my chest, a piercing scream ruptured through the chaos, spiraling like shards of glass into our world, a cry reminding me we may not emerge unscathed from this storm. Anna turned to me, eyes wide, breath hitching. Sebastian, but before I could ground her fears, the atmosphere fractured, and amidst the terror, an unsettling truth settled over us like a shroud. Something darker than we had ever imagined was lurking just beyond our threshold of understanding, already beginning to unfold. What had we truly awakened? I had thought the storm would be a singular event, a moment defined by chaos and confrontation. I had envisioned facing Richard, illuminating the shadows that surrounded our family's past. But now, as the piercing scream resonated through the air, shattered pieces of uncertainty filled the spaces between us. Sebastian, what was that? Anna's voice wavered, thin as the mist that hung around us. Her grip tightened, grounding both of us against the tumult. I hardly had time to respond. The air vibrated with a raw intensity, as if the world were alive and breathing around us. That I don't know, I murmured, bewildered. In the depths of my chest, dread twisted like a coiled serpent. The scream, unshackled and primal, reverberated in my bones. It was one of anguish, a cry of desperation that begged for understanding. Look, Anna whispered, tipping her chin towards the source of the sound. Beyond the flickering brightness, shadows wreathed a darkness that had not only endured but also thrived in the corners of our consciousness. And as if summoned, a figure began to materialize, grotesque and familiar. The outline morphed into something I'd always feared. A phantom of my worst imaginings emerged, dripping with shadows that blurred its features. It was a representation of every nightmare I had buried, a personification of every grief I carried. Why do you haunt us? I called, forcing my voice to rise above the tumult, but the figure remained shrouded in the swirling darkness, its voice laced with a haunting familiarity that rattled the very essence of my soul. Because you cannot escape me, Sebastian. The voice filled the space, wrapping around us like a heavy fog. I am the truth you have neglected, the pain you have chosen to ignore. This is only the beginning. Stop. We're not afraid of you. Anna cried defiantly, but her voice wavered. My heart sank as I watched her bravely face the encroaching terror, but uncertainty flickered behind her eyes like the dying embers of a fire. Such bravery, yet it changes nothing. The figure twisted impossibly, limbs elongating into darkness, stretching towards us with an insatiable hunger. Your mother's choices have woven a tapestry of consequences, and you stand at its verge, can't you see? We will not allow you to twist our lives with misery. I shouted, but even as the words left me, I sensed a tremor within, a growing awareness that perhaps Richard was not the only source of suffering in our tangled history. Expose the past, and you will uncover what you truly are, a vessel of despair. You can deny it, hide from it, but it's part of you. The figure's shadows seemed to pulse, as if savoring the fear that coursed through me. Enough! I growled, desperation turning to fury. I will not let you drag her down too. I pointed a trembling finger toward Anna, who stood by my side like a fierce warrior, yet I could see the uncertainty blooming in her eyes. Where was the truth in my resolve? Around us, the light flickered and flared, trying valiantly to stave off the encroaching darkness. But shadows have a way of creeping. They exploited every crack, every doubt woven within the fabric of my stance against them. Suddenly, Richard moved closer, his silhouette dark against the fiery glow encapsulating Anna and me. You must listen. He barked, his voice a jagged edge of urgency piercing the thick tension. The shadows hold knowledge far more dangerous than you can fathom, secrets that could unravel you and everything you protect. Why should we trust you? I shot back, instinctive anger lacing my words, knowing that his presence only thickened the dread suffocating us. Because, he said, his tone softening, the haughtiness fading. I once stood where you are. I chose power over love, and I lost everything. I've witnessed the costs of those choices, felt the darkness seep into my soul. I know what it can do. His gaze turned genuine for a moment, as if the man behind the facade was almost visible. You needn't walk that path. It's not too late. A weight settled on my chest, the conflict churning within. I felt Anna's breath against my shoulder, a pulse of warmth. That reminded me of the delicate thread connecting us to hope, to each other. But the darkness threatened to unravel it, taunting and inviting in equal measure. What do we do? Anna asked quietly, her voice a whisper, as if speaking aloud would shatter the fragile equilibrium we clung to. You must make choices rooted in truth, not fear, Richard replied, a hint of desperation lining his voice. You'll need to confront the source of your pain. Only then can you hope to resolve it. But before I could process the gravity of his words, the shadows lunged forward, encircling us in an embrace of icy despair. In an instant, Anna gasped, and I felt a chilling stillness envelop her, as though the darkness sought to claim what light remained within her. No. I lunged forward, but it was as if time slowed. The moment stretched into eternity. As I reached for her, despair bloomed in my chest. Sebastian, she cried, the pain in her voice tearing at my heartstrings, don't. Find the truth. You must. The shadows recoiled, dragging her away, vanishing into the depths of the darkness like wisps of smoke, a horrific tether pulling us apart. Panic surged through me as I felt Richard's presence waver behind me. Your choice is before you, he whispered, the malice that had once engulfed him now draped in urgency. What will you become? Will you delve into the truths you both feared, or will you let the shadows claim the last of the light? And as I stood ensnared in the deepening dread, the echo of Anna's voice rippled through the air, a beacon blurred by shadows, and I realized the depth of the challenge I faced. I was left clutching threads of hope, but the darkness hungered still, eager to consume what little tether of light remained. As I stood on the precipice of fate, a new realization surged through me. If the shadows could take Anna, what remnants of hope could I still salvage for both our lives? Would I truly have the strength to summon the truth that could illuminate our path, or was it already too late? The air thickened around me, a murky haze curling at the edges of my vision. Fear and dread coalesced into a single heavy weight pressing down on my shoulders. I strained to hear Anna's voice, to feel that warm connection woven through our shared struggles, but all that surrounded me was an echoing void, a silence that devoured sound and left me teetering on the edge of despair. Anna! I roared, my voice crumbling under the throes of panic. But the only reply was the whisper of the wind, twisting through the remnants of what had been our world. My breath came in ragged gasps as I felt the icy shards of the darkness snake around me, eager to swallow me whole. Richard stood beside me, his face pale and contorted with an expression I had never seen before, one of raw anguish that broke through his effortlessly polished facade. You have to focus, Sebastian. He urged, reaching for my arm. We can't lose her. You must believe in your strength. The light has to come from within. That I wrestled with the conflicting emotions within. May's urgency sparked a flicker of hope, but the darkness that had stolen Anna threatened to extinguish it just as quickly. What kind of strength did I possess? The thought spiraled in my mind like a cyclone, buffeting against the walls I had built. As Richard encouraged me to dig deeper, strange sensations began to bubble up from the depths of my confusion. A sudden warmth suffused my heart, and memories long buried flickered to life. I recalled the nights spent with Anna, silencing the world with laughter, sharing our dreams under the starlit sky. Each moment glowed like a distant star, their collective brilliance illuminating the darker corners of my memory. Think of her, Richard pleaded, his voice persisting through the haze. Think of everything you fought for together, and as my thoughts turned inward, I felt the pulse of hope gathering strength, a flicker igniting amidst the suffocating shadows, whispering promises of resilience. The foundational pieces of my love for Anna shimmered, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, daring me to push forward, but the shadows recoiled momentarily, as if disturbed by the light surfacing within me. They writhed and twisted, tauntingly resistant. Love. Hope. Such fragile things, the figure of torment murmured, swirling ominously in response to my mental resurgence. You'll fail.no. I cried out defiantly, defying the echo of the monster that had always thrived on doubt. I refuse to let you suffocate our light anymore. The ground tremored, and in that moment of determination, memory honed my focus. Pictures of Anna still etched into my heart fueled a fire within. I recalled her quiet resilience, her laughter would shimmer through the darkest nights, guiding me toward solace. Anna! I shouted from the depths of my being, feeling the energy crackling around me as I tapped into the wellspring of emotions I had tried to bury, daring the shadows to come closer. You belong with me. I will fight for you. No. The figure writhed with fury, fraying at the edges, but uncertainty rippled through its shadows. Could it sense the shift? You know nothing of what you're calling back. You'll set the storm loose, and it will consume you, then I will face it. I shouted, feeling a resolute defiance pulse through me. The shadows shrank for a moment, recoiling from my unwavering commitment. You can't have her. I won't let you win, they hissed in response, swirling around me like a tornado, heightening the cacophony of chaos, but I clenched my fists, focusing on the truth buried deep within my heart. No monster could extinguish the love we had nurtured. I would awaken whatever light lay dormant within me. Just then, an ethereal glow emerged from the shadows, trickling into my consciousness, igniting within me an unexpected surge of confidence. It seeped into my bones, radiating outward a connection to every moment that Anna and I had shared. Can love truly shatter darkness? I wondered, but I let myself step forward, into the unseen, toward that light. Sebastian. Richard's voice was an anchor, firm and steady amidst the tumult. You must embrace the truth, even if it frightens you. The light you seek will not come without sacrifice. An unsettling thought tightened in my chest. Sacrifice? I questioned, grappling with the implications. What more will I have to give? But as the shadows pulsed ominously around me, an inexplicable clarity surged, and I heard Anna's voice beyond the void. You're not just a reflection of the pain. This is our chance to rewrite our story, Sebastian. Trust the light within. My heart raced, fueled by the urgency of the moment. The shadows quivered before me, and I cast my heart's light toward the enveloping darkness, ready to rip the veil apart. We had weathered storms before, and together, we could unravel this one too. Yet before I could take the final step, a new revelation flickered through the shadows like a lightning bolt. Richard's connection to the darkness, to our family's history, had unraveled before me. I turned, finding him transformed, a ghost of the man I had grown to distrust and yet, in this moment, needed. Your choices have led us here, he said, every syllable soaked in anguish, his once steely resolve crumbling. The truth about your mother, Sebastian, it's deeper than you realize. Her decisions weren't just about love, they were born from a darkness she tried to escape. An icy grip seized my heart. The torment had roots stretching deeper, laced through our family like a cancer, and what awaited me within that truth could either guide me to Anna's rescue or plunge us further into the shadows. As hope and dread battled within me, the realization sunk deep. What did I truly know of my family's past? What sacrifices would I have to make to bring Anna back? And all around us, the shadows pulsed with a sinister energy, eager to grasp that deepest truth, and it was now my choice: dive into the depths of the past or allow the darkness to consume all that remained of our fragile light. I wished I could grasp those fleeting moments when the ground felt solid beneath me, back when a tangled web of darkness didn't loom over our lives. But now, standing in that distorted reality where the past intertwined with shadows, I had no choice but to confront everything I'd tried to outrun. I felt the pulse of the darkness, thick and cold, paired with the shadows that danced all around me, daring me to remain ignorant and afraid. Richard's laughter echoed eerily as I faced the specters that intertwined with my memory, each haunting wisp a reminder of everything that had slipped away. You think mere love can stand against forces like this? He sneered, but his words barely registered. I had flickered with enough resolve to prove him wrong. Love is more than a feeling, I shot back, feeling the heat swell inside my chest, awakening something I'd thought had been extinguished long ago. It's the tenacity to fight against the darkest currents. It's the conviction to reach for those you've lost, and even as the shadows swirled violently, that conviction took form. An echoing warmth pulsed through me, igniting memories that had long been muted. I thought of every laugh, every tear Anna and I had shared, intertwined like roots that had drawn us together even as whispers beneath the surface threatened to tear us apart. We are not defined by our past, I insisted, drawing strength from those memories, and with each passing moment, I felt reality shift, the shadows shuddering, sensing the surge of light I was willing to harness. Sebastian. Anna's voice pierced through the turmoil, an invisible tether pulling me towards her. The shadows flickered, their grasp faltering for a breath as I met her gaze. I could almost see her, suspended within the chaos, a vision of strength and love that shook me to the core. Fight for us, she urged, and in that moment, I knew that every ounce of doubt within me evaporated, consumed by hope. But Richard loomed larger, shifting closer, his shadow stretching like a shroud. You will suffer consequences for your defiance. Acknowledge the sacrifices your mother has made. He shouted, desperation creeping into his voice as if desperately trying to anchor me in the past. Stop selling her pain, I snarled, pushing back against the very shadows he represented. She gave everything to protect us. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have each other. It's time for truths, Richard. With those words, I willed myself to step deeper into the chaos, embracing the solidarity I felt with Anna, willing enough to acknowledge the light threading us both together. The shadows recoiled, a wave of heat igniting from my core, flickering with brilliance and surrounding me like armor. Memories surged forward, binding me to Anna and our moth-era tapestry woven tightly enough to withstand even the harshest storms. Each memory propelled me deeper into the heart of the storm. Your betrayal ends here, I declared, hand extended forward, drawing upon every ounce of love and courage within me. Just as hesitation seemed to seep back into the shadows, the blinding light expanded, pushing Richard's darkness away. This is not just about you, he shouted, panic knotting his voice. There are forces at play that even you cannot comprehend. Then I will learn the truth. I roared at last, fearless in the presence of uncertainty, and with that, I stepped into the kaleidoscope of grays and whites that spun wildly around us. Each heartbeat whispered echoes of truth and hidden burdens, unraveling layers upon layers of pain as I confronted the specter of my family's past, and with Anna's name roaring through my heart fueled by love, I took a deep breath, accepting the overwhelming need to find her to rescue everything dear to me that had begun to fade away. Images flooded my mind, crashing upon me like waves revealing secrets hidden beneath their surface. Abandonment, shame, sacrifices entangled with betrayal all unveiled their burden at once. What have you done? I breathed, feeling the truth of my mother's struggle sharpen my resolve, pinning me against the reality I had always feared. Shadows twisted violently around me, struggling against the pull of that awareness. I had exposed the underlying pain, and I wouldn't back down. A flicker of recognition sparked, illuminating the horrifying choices that had characterized my mother's past. Richard, now less imposing as the shadow stretched and swayed, seemingly lost to the weight of his own wrongdoings. You don't understand, he gasped, falling back as the truth clawed at him. This isn't your realm. Walk away while you still can. But I wouldn't retreat. Not now. Not ever. Love is my realm, Richard, I declared fiercely, pivoting on my grounding warmth. And it's stronger than you know. You can't extinguish what you never created. With each word, I pulled Anna closer to me, invoking the resurrection of hope, allowing the memories of our love to infuse me with the strength needed to overcome the darkness that had threatened to define us. That I in those moments, I recognized my strength wasn't rooted in defiance alone but in the undying bond with Anna, my mother, and the family that still remained. With renewed determination, I grasped at that bond and pushed forward, channeling everything I held dear. "You can't claim my family," I shouted, as the light shot forth, dazzling the shadows that encroached upon me. The force of that light cleaved the darkness, revealing where Anna's spirit lingered, faint but unmistakable. "There you are, Anna!" I cried, arms outstretched, the warmth of hope blinding and pure, illuminating our fates together. "Sebastian!" she called, her voice vibrant, and as the shadows surged again, I could see her edging closer towards me as the light forged a path. "I believe in you." In that moment, the shifting tendrils of darkness merged and shrank, faltering as we rallied together, hearts ignited by the exultation of truth. We were stronger than betrayal. Together we surged forward into that light, the strands of others' intentions unraveling fully. Each thread was both past and future, woven into a new beginning. With one final push against the shadows, I reached out, feeling our fingers link firmly together as her grip solidified beside mine, their hold now crumbling like fragments of time. The light burst forth like a burgeoning sun, enveloping us in brightness, pushing shadows away in vibrant brilliance. For the longest time, the shadows had informed our stories, but now, steadied by love, we would claim a new chapter. Just as everything blended into an explosion of light and warmth, I let go of fear. "No more bargaining," I declared. "It ends today." Together, we rise above the darkness, and with that proclamation, I witnessed the embodiment of our love dissipate the darkness, letting it explode like stardust scattering into eternity as Anna and I took our first steps into the radiant future awaiting us. The shadows fled, swallowed by the depths, leaving us standing in the embrace of a new dawn. The air shimmered, ebbed and flowed, and in that moment, I felt the ties of our family begin to weave back together, mended through truth and understanding, filled with the power of forgiveness. We held each other tightly, together confronting the remnants of our past, unyieldingly bold. From that moment forward, we would forge the stories of our lives with a renewed sense of purpose. "Never again," I whispered, looking into Anna's eyes, where warmth and invincible hope kindled. And with her replying heart beating in sync, we stepped forward into our forever life, undiminished by fear, but radiant with every truth we unearthed. As we began anew, the last vestiges of betrayal faded into whispers, engulfed by possibility. "Never again," I reaffirmed softly, knowing we would never let the shadows define us again. Beneath the sprawling sky reflecting the dawn of a yet undiscovered tomorrow, I held on to hope, and together, we faced the horizon that beckoned just beyond. Love was stronger than anything that sought to separate us, and as the sun broke free, illuminating our path, I whispered, "This is just the beginning."